Okay, on this video I'm going to show you how I would go about painting lava. I've done quite a few paintings in the past that have been themed around fire and burning embers, but I thought I'd give lava a go. First time I tried to paint fire or burning embers was on a real canvas with acrylic paint. I'll just show you one of my examples. Now, the approach that I would take with traditional materials is vastly different than what I'm going to show you with digital paint. And one of the reasons that I would approach it very differently is it's very difficult to get the sense of glowing light when you apply white on top of dark colours. So when I approached a painting like this, I always started with a white canvas, started with the pale yellows and built up to orange, then red, then dark red, then black, and then started to do some of the highlights on top afterwards. But when I come to do digital painting now, I'm going to start in Procreate, as I always do, with a black canvas. And I'm going to pick the colour that I wish to begin with, and I'm going to pick, I've already got some pre-selected colours here. They range from the kind of lemon yellows to oranges to deep reds. I don't need to use the black so much at this point, but I may later on in the final stages of the picture start adding some black back in. But for now, this colour palette is more than adequate. So I'm going to start with the darkest of reds. I want to build up the forms and the details slowly to begin with. I don't know exactly where I'm going to go with it, so I just need to be building it up subtly. Again, I'm just still using the medium airbrush for this. It's the brush that I prefer to use generally in most of my artwork. Occasionally I'll go for pencil instead, but I don't really feel the need to use too many of the textured brushes. I quite prefer the simple airbrush effect. Like I say, I don't know exactly the shape that I'm going for. I do want to create a sense of flowing lava, so I'm trying to create a little bit of a snake form about the way that it moves. And having studied lava, I do notice that it tends to break up into forms that kind of resemble stripes. So it starts to get a crust on the outside, but then obviously you've got the heat and the movement that then sort of fragments it and stretches it, and it forms this kind of stripe effect. Okay, I've got a feel of how the form's going to be now. I'm just going to start adding some slightly brighter colours in now. I don't think I've got enough colours here, so I want a redder colour perhaps. I'm going to add that to the mix. And I'm going to start just brightening up some of the areas. Now I'm kind of working backwards with this, so in reality the lava starts from its hottest point, which is like the white, or the very, very bright yellow. And then as it cools down, it gets orange and red and black, and I'm kind of working from the black backwards. So I'm starting with the blackest colours, then the dark reds, then the deep reds and bright reds and oranges, and then yellows, and maybe a touch of white here and there, but not very much. I think it's very important to make sure that you're getting a good variety. If you create every area looking quite similar to each other, then you're not going to get a sense of light. The light is effective because it's surrounded by a lot more dark areas. So if I now pick the yellow and start adding it into this kind of area, it's going to be special and really vibrant because it's not used everywhere. If I started to put yellow amongst every part of the lava, then it's going to lose the impact. Now it's also important to remember when you're adding the lighter colours, you cannot have a yellow in isolation. on a black area like that. It doesn't work. It has to kind of build in layers, so it has to go from the black to the dark red to the red to the orange and then the yellow. So even when there's a yellow area that might be fairly close to the black, it still has to have a separation of the orange and the red before it meets the black. So that's why I've done the dark orange or the dark red and then done the lighter colours kind of within the centre of those areas. You build up to the yellow gradually, and it's surrounded by lighter colours that kind of intensifies towards the centre. So as you can see here, it goes from black to red to orange and then yellow in the centre. Okay, I've certainly not finished with the glowing details yet, but I want to start picking out some of the actual forms. Now the way that I'm going to do that for the bits that aren't illuminated by the actual heat of the lava is imagine that I've got a light source other than the actual lava itself. So I'm going to imagine that it's not bright daylight, but there will be perhaps a sun low in the sky or a moon, I'm not too sure, but some kind of lighting anyway other than the light of the lava. So I'm going to pick a very cool colour, so maybe like a grey blue, but I might even go for a slightly greyer version than that. And I'm going to introduce this very, very, very subtly. It's very easy to overdo something like this. Like I say, I'm not entirely sure of the forms that I want to create at this point, so I'm going to be doing this rather experimentally and just sort of feeling my way with that a little bit. So as you can see, the main form that I'm doing has some bright yellows, but I'm going to do some other areas that perhaps have cooled down a little bit more than this area. This is quite a fresh shape, so some of the slightly older ones would still have some of the red glow, but it wouldn't have the brightest yellow, and maybe just be a sort of slightly fainter red glow coming through because it's had time to cool down. But again, it has splits in the forms where you can see the light shining through. Okay, I think I'll leave it there for now. If I was wanting to turn it into a full painting, I might shrink down the layer and expand the background and make more of a feature element. But for the purposes of just wanting to show how I would go about creating a lava effect, I'm quite satisfied that I've shown how I would go about doing that. So just to recap, start with the dark reds, then work into light red, then into oranges and yellows, and then maybe a touch of white for the highlights to give you all the glowing colours. But then after that I picked out some of the highlights. Imagine there's a light source coming from another place in the picture. And bear in mind that contrast is really important, so I've used the lightest colours like the yellow and the white very sparingly. If I was to use it all over, then you wouldn't get a sense of drama and contrast as effectively. I always try to in my paintings get a sense of balance between dark and light and warm and cold. so you can't overdo it in one direction. Anyway, I intend to do more videos like this, so please subscribe, have a look at my other videos, and I hope to see you here again soon.